I am live, and I don't know that there's anyone here yet, but that's not usually a problem for me. I was asked over Thanksgiving, someone asked me, you okay with all this time spent alone? My answer is yes, because I just love to, I debate myself all the time. I'm, I'm a master uh, personal debater, back and forth between myself and myself. Hello, there are two people here. Welcome. And it's been a full and wonderful week for me, thought wise, which is what I count on, is that feeling like the ideas are still coming. I worry that there will come a time when they don't. I had a visit this week with my 87-year-old friend who spent his life doing that. Did you beat Michael? You did this time. Jeff, you beat it before Michael. Michael's not the first one to show up. You know who usually is? It's Paula. Um, but anyway, glad to have you here. Yeah, you beat him, and not you don't have to stick around or anything. You just have to show up. Um, and register when I do roll call, and then you're fine. You don't have to actually listen to this stuff. It's all a contest to see who's the better apple polisher in this classroom of mine. Um, yeah, I'm sure Paula will show up. I hope so. Yes. Good Saturday. Hello, Shirley. You've been following me closely lately. Thank you for that. Even in the night, last night I got up in the middle of the night. I've been having a little digestive something. I think it's temporary. And got up and wrote something. And sure enough, when I checked again at like 3 a.m, Shirley had seen it. Hello, Shirley. Nice to see you. Happy holidays. Actually, I don't see you. And let me get to that. But we did have our first live Zoom call last week. This was on Sunday. We did it at 11 o'clock. We did it here. Let's see if I can put this in here. There we go. We did it there where we'll always do it. 3 people showed up. We had a wonderful conversation. I did notice our cable is being worked on. I may drop off out for a few minutes. Okay, but you come back. You come back, or else your early arrival will not count for very much here. So, yeah, we had our first conversation. It was interesting because we didn't have there's not an official topic. And there were 3 people involved because it was the first one, and because I don't have a way to announce it other than here, is I'm trying to make this YouTube live into something that is actually live, where we all can talk. And I noticed immediately that one of the challenges is that I want to make sure to keep everybody engaged, so someone could bring up a topic that's important for them, and we follow that out, and I could lose people on the other side. Who are not particularly interested in that conversation. So yeah, but it's manageable. That's what happens when you get groups of people together. Where we stand depends on where we sit, and we all sit in different places. And it's a good reason to be efficient in conversation when it's live like that. I did at one point. An early book I wrote and never got published was called Executive UFO, a field guide to unidentified flying objectives in the workplace. And really all it was a collection of my limericks, definitions, that sort of thing. This was 35 years ago or so. And it started with a chapter it started with an introduction in which they have there's executives and they're having a meeting, and they have a device there that I wanted to create. This was before cell phones, and so by now it would be easy to create this. It was going to be a burn meter. It's basically a meter you would have in a corporate boardroom or any kind of meeting, where you're keeping track of how much it's costing to be meeting. So you just burning through. So you basically back calculate from everybody's salary or income and the cost of the space, because I was at that time trying to work my way into corporate consulting and was getting some success at it, modest success. It didn't last. But I found meetings inefficient because we needed to say what people were saying, what they needed to hear. And that was what Executive UFOs was all about. The field guide to unidentified flying objectives in the workplace. And I like that idea of the meter, that is keeping track of the meter, because there is such a tendency in us humans to say what we need to hear instead of what actually needs to be heard. It probably even gets worse with age. So watch out, and remember that this is strictly optional. I do not offer compulsory courses. I never have a captive audience. Leave if I get boring. I have to stay with me, and I like it. Let's see. Okay, so I want to remind you that there's more going on in this conversation than who showed up first. Okay, I mean, that's crucial, that's important, but I also want your ideas on the table so we can play with them, mess around with them. Um, uh, I've got lots this week. I just launched a new series on YouTube. I'm liking I'm liking working in the medium of shorts almost exclusively these days. I have just a variety of different shorts, and I came up with a new idea for one yesterday, which would be a pure scornography podcast. It's called Nothing Like Us. And what it is, I say, welcome to Nothing Like Us, the show that gives you put down uplift. I'm DJ, DJ Smug, also known as Exempt by Contempt. And you know what I hate? And then I talk about a kind of person. The first one was about egomaniacs. And the logo I've got over my head includes a halo. So it's basically playing with this thing where if I can point out a flaw in others, that proves I don't have it. Exempt by contempt. That was fun. Lots of fun to be playing with that. I'll be able to do quite a few of them, I bet. Where I just say, look at these people, those fools out there. They're nothing like us because there's nothing like us because we are superior. And the reason we're superior is that we can point out the flaws in others. This morning, I also came up with a new term for this. People often suspect that I'm a misanthrope, that I hate humans because I'm always looking at our inner weasel. And I'm not a misanthrope, I'm a missionthrope. I know I'm terrible at these puns. I mean, I do a lot of them, and they're enough to make some of my friends gag, but I actually think that one's a pretty good one. I'm on a mission to manage my dark side, to manage my ego, to manage my, I don't see any chance of eliminating it. So it's about managing it, but for me, it's about naming it to tame it. It's as if I want it, I cannot manage what I deny having. A true humanist. That's where I'm trying to go. I'm trying to figure out how to be a true humanist. And that is really being true to the fact that we are human. So humanist often it is associated, humanity, humanism, being humane, all of those terms sound like our better angels. And I end up calling that romantic humanism. And the extreme version of it is that we're nothing like other animals. We can decide to be good. We can choose to be good. And so to be a true humanist is really to embrace the warts and all in all of us, in me too. This is basically a universalist Me Too movement. That's what I'm about. And I had to explain this morning to my friend. You've heard of this guy before, delightful guy, a Trump-supporting Zionist, who's a big fan of Wolfram's work in mathematics. And Wolfram is, I don't know if you know the name, but he's come up with a fancy way of doing mathematics that is useful and powerful in its own way, but also doesn't get at what is the difference between living and non-living things. And my friend is often pointing out to me that there's a limit on what humans could know. Mathematica, there you go, there we go. And I had to say to my friend this morning, yeah, you often bring this up, that there's a limit to what we could know. It's basically that we're not Laplace's demon, if you know that story. Happy to share it if anybody wants it. But we don't pay much attention to how motivated we are to not know what we really are. And so I'm trying to point this out to this friend. So I am a misanthrope, not really. I am a missionthrope. I am on a mission to manage my human inner weasel. And to do that, I have to acknowledge, I have to really inventory my inner weasel. I did spend some time this week reading an old book. I've liked this book several times. It's very short. I think I might have recommended it to you before. If you want a copy of it as audio, which is the best way to read this book, I'll be happy to send it to you. This is a guy who decided to take the 66 chapters of the Bible and distill them down into accurate yet vernacular, easy language, casual, everyday language. And he concludes from it all that the thesis of the Bible is that God is disappointed in you. But it's a rigorous book that is actually respected by religious people who actually laugh at it too. They see the humor in it. It's quite irreverent and also appeals to an atheist like me. But what you're hearing in it is this humanist appetite, and I just don't trust it at all anymore. I wrote this week, and it'll soon be a minor motion picture. Uh, mission troop. Well, it's actually mission thrope. Thrope is the animal part. Troop could be like we're a troop of people, and this is what happens when you start playing with words, as you know. From what I understand, Shirley, you are engaged in wordplay like I am. No, I have to. That's probably the next one to read. I love Twain's work. I just read a Christopher Hitchens review of a book on. I'd love Twain. I mean, obviously, I'm drawn to that approach. He's an ironist. He's a romantic cynic, which is another name for the mission trope. That I'm deeply cynical about human nature and deeply romantic about getting it as good as we can. And I live in that tension, and I love it, and I think Twain did too. If you ever watch the Ken Burns Mark Twain biography, it gets at this, that he knew that you just couldn't, you have to be careful because people don't actually want the truth. And yet, so you have to get it across. So he's an ironist. Paula, we've been talking about you. I hope your ears are burning. We've been talking about how you're late. Okay, so actually, I'm going to read you something I wrote after listening to this thing. This is short. Nothing good. No, we were talking about. No, we didn't say anything good about you. I defended you. See, Jeff said that you didn't have half the brains of a donkey, and I said you did. So here's this thing. You can't, won't, and shouldn't follow Jesus's or the Buddha's teachings to drop your ego, love and forgive everyone, and sacrifice everything for anyone. To take those teachings seriously, you'd give away everything and become a suicide bomber for the glory of your imaginary name-droppable spirit ally in the sky. The preferred option is to become a holier-than-thou lip-service preacher teaching everyone to sacrifice for you. I can see why such claptrap is popular. I empathize with those who are suckered into a lifetime of trying to live by those impossible and counterproductive ideals. I can see why espousing such half-witted nonsense on stilts would be a fun addiction. But it's bad. It's bad for you and bad for the world. It stunts growth on the fundamental questions, like where to give and where not to give. But then that's some of the fun. No one likes those questions. We'd rather make decisions by gut intuition while pretending we're living by spiritual teachings that one can't live by. Having unattainable goals takes the pressure off to actually try living by them. Okay, so that's I'm moving one step beyond. I'm trying to think it up a notch from the people who say, well, ego is bad, and therefore I renounce it. It's just, I've never seen any evidence of anybody doing anything with that other than humble bragging and virtue signaling. It's terrible. And yet the amount of life devoted to it and the popularity of that virtue signaling, I am unimpressed by it. Okay, so there's that. Now, I said I had a bunch of ideas this week. I've demonstrated that I had a few. I had even more than that, but I'm not sharing them because what I want is your ideas. Enough picking the fleas off my damn shit. We need to examine your brain droppings. So please, if you've had any insights this week, and God damn it, I hope you have, because that's the fun I'm offering here. Life is miserable. It's nothing but suffering and anxiety. And not only that, it's too short. So what is the joy of life? I am arguing it's many things. It includes chocolate. It includes sex. It includes movies and everything else. But it also includes harvesting insights when you get them, however half-baked. and then playing with them, needing them, fooling around with them. So come on, I don't care what your idea is. Maybe it's that I'm a bad person because I'm not vegetarian. Um, uh, Even the Christians, hubris permission given by Sky Daddy. Yes, okay, now let's talk about this because actually, Shirley, you're onto something that's important to me. Let's take this thing. Actions have consequences. Um, okay, so there's two versions of this. I refer to this as spoken in the aspirational tense. To give you an idea what aspirational tense is it's right on the edge. I mean, I could simply take it as it stands. Actions have consequences. Uh, that's kind of true. That is, there's cause and effect. But I think you're implying something more, and I want to tap that into that. Okay, so the aspirational tense. Suppose that you remember I was on nicotine pouches until about a month ago. I've been on and off them. I'll probably get back on them. I'm impressed by how easy it was to get off of them again. It's less. I think I'm less chemically addicted to the drug than I am to the feeling of rewarding myself, like giving myself a doggy treat. That's what it was about. But suppose that I resolved that I was going to get off of nicotine pouches, and I had emptied my last pack 5 minutes ago, and I told you that I quit nicotine patches. That's spoken in the aspirational tense. It's a state that I aspire to, but it's not like I've actually achieved it yet. It's like fake it till you make it, which sometimes work, but doesn't always work. Sometimes you have to face it till you make it, which is related to what I was talking about before, which is to name it is to tame it. I have to actually recognize the inner weasel in me. I have to face it in order to make it, because I can't just fake that I've already gotten over it. Actions have consequences. So here's an expansion of that interests me. So if I said crime doesn't pay, or the chickens will come home to roost, um, I that is kind of or if I said we're going to win the 2028 election, or MAGA is doomed, it will never beat democracy. All of those are in the aspirational tense. And there's plenty of use for it, especially when you're dealing with people who are like the Trumpists, who are like, they say, game over. We already won and won forever. So they're doing that whole bravado thing, like the game is over, we already won. Or like I already got rid of my nicotine addiction or something like that. It's aspirational tense. I think that what the Christians groomed in the Trumpists, and what you see from the beginning with Christians, is that they wanted self-confidence no matter what. They wanted it to be game over. So when you read the epistles or the abbreviated version of them from this book called God is Disappointed in You, and yet still trying to be accurate, what you're hearing is don't care about temporary earthly wins like money or power or even your life. Give everything away and you will be rewarded in the afterlife. Have confidence that nothing you do is wrong as long as you have got this one master excuse. No deed too dirty for a Christian like me. No deed too dirty for a MAGA like me. No need too dirty for a mindfulness person like me. It doesn't matter what the content is. You have a master excuse, and you feel therefore immune to the consequences. And part of that would be the sense that it's like in movies. Yeah, it's a get out of fail free card is how I think about it. But yes, get out of jail, get out of fail. That's what they want. And more that comes home. That's why the thumbnail was the thumbnail for me this week. I see the Trumpists as actually thriving on how confident he is while failing. That is, they are turning that into evidence that actions don't have confidence, don't have consequences to his confidence, and therefore don't have consequences. That's what a human would want. They would want a get out of fail free card. That's exactly what any of us would want. That I can do whatever, I can do no wrong, therefore I can do all the wrong I want and still come out on top. Who wouldn't want that? That's exactly what a human would want. I mean, I got to see it in me. So here's another thing that came out this week. Um, let's see. Hold on a second. I'm just looking at the scripts. Here we go. This is also short. They're all short because they got to be in 3 minutes. You're not talking to a brick wall. You're talking to someone hiding behind walls of mirrors, shouting, "Look at yourself," to keep from having to look at themselves. They're hiding in that hall of mirrors. Try to point them out, and they'll say, "Nope, that's not me. You missed. Go fish. You're seeing things you're projecting." They're trying to corner and expose you within a hall of mirrors, attacking you from whatever angle disadvantages you. It's not the emperor who has no clothes, but the opposite, an empty suit, nobody home, a human disappearing, hiding within a shiny spiked suit of armor, reflecting you in the worst light possible. Outrageous, isn't it? The way these narcissistic, psychopathic, sociopathic gaslighters treat people in their sadomasochistic campaign to self elevate by putting others down. But take a breath and put yourself in their shoes. Notice how free and safe they'd feel holed up and hiding in there. Drop your disdainful distance for a minute to appreciate why people would want to burrow into suits of spiked mirrored armor, declaring that if anyone's the problem, it's anyone but them. You shouldn't have to put up with that crap. Still, appreciate why that crap would be heaven for anyone, even you and me. A heavenly hideaway, a mirage oasis of absolute confidence, immune to all culpability. Stop asking why the hell would people act like that. It's obvious. It'd be tempting. You'll do a far better job resisting that temptation by admitting that it's tempting than you'll do by pretending that you're immune to that temptation and that therefore, if anyone's the problem, it's anyone but you. Okay, so that's where I go with actions have consequences, even for Christians. Hubris, permission granted by the Sky Daddy, all of that, I totally resonate with Shirley. We're right there. And then I have to go the step beyond it. I try to think it up a notch from that. I'm trying to play chess and stay 2 steps ahead. And no, I do not assume that they will have their comeuppance. In fact, these days, if I were a betting man, I would say that it's more likely that they will win and the world will lose. That is, one way or another, it becomes what I call a symboloma, a cancer of the symbols. That is, you can do all this stuff with your imaginary sky daddy, and that's what a human would want to do with language. What do you get when you cross emotions with language? You get language that rationalizes your emotions, language that makes you feel comfortable. You get confirmation bias. That's exactly what. But I also see something to talking in the aspirational gap where you say, yeah, this can't win. You're doomed. And I will use that. Now, I don't know. Most of you probably don't watch these, but I'll occasionally catch a YouTube short in which you see two boxers in that photo shoot before they actually get in the ring, and one of them is being arrogant and ignorant and saying he's already won as a way to psych out the other. In general, those end with the arrogant one being knocked out. Oh shit. Okay, I just saw what you said, Fun Monster. Paula, will you tell me which one, because that has been a problem before. I got to know which one and remove it. So let me know which video was out of sync if you can. Thank you for that. I'm grateful for you telling me that so I can fix it. Yeah, I don't know why that happens. It's glitchy AI software perhaps, or maybe it's me. This one, wait, this one meaning my YouTube live? That'd be interesting. You mean this one? Yeah, lag. Oh my gosh. Let me think what I can do about that. I don't have any filters on. It's lagging. Hello? 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 Yeah, the thing about these streams, this must be hard to watch. Okay, here's what I suggest. Turn off the video. I mean, this is just talk anyway. I don't know what's going on and why it's lagging. Well, let me see. There's one thing I might be able to try. One possible solution. It would have to do with I'm going to try something here that may be disaster. Okay. All right. How's that? Is it any better? Let me know if this is any better. I just switched the USB ports for the camera. Fancy camera. Okay. Well, all right. All right. Yes, but thank you for that. I sometimes have put out the shorts that do that. Okay. All right. So we've been talking about this thing. Arrogance makes winners of. Let's see. Here we go. Arrogance and ignorance makes winners of too many Americans in their minds. I think this is as though Caveman Rob. Did you change your name? Are you the same Rod from Cincinnati or Cleveland, Cincinnati? I think. In which case, yes, uh, uh, um, because you had an acronymy thing before. Yes, so this is something I actually pick up. What you're talking about here, error, the make winners of too many Americans. Oh, Rob from Georgia, nice to meet you. Nice to have you here. Uh, uh, I've been there a couple of times, Georgia. I lived in Tennessee's 7th district, which was the one where they had the vote last week. That was where I lived for 7 years, Summertown, Tennessee. But I barely know Georgia. Uh, my wife was there. My wife was from there, so I'd go back and visit. My one wife, I had a wife for 16 years, 16 and a half years, and she was from, oh no, she was from Birmingham, Alabama. I'm sorry, let me get back to the point. I mean, what is this about? Location, location, location. So Edmund Burke is an important thinker to me. He's considered the founder of conservatism. Remember, I look like a radical leftist, but I'm actually a liberal conservative, a libertarian socialist. I think we all are. I'm trying to get us to stop grandstanding as if we're for change or for stability or for tightening things or for loosening things. We are for all of those. And we just disagree about what to tighten and what to loosen and all of that. But anyway, Edmund Burke makes this point. I'm still trying to find the citation where I read it. But he's saying you need to have conflict because if not, you will end up thinking you have more competence in the world without needing to deal with conflict. It's a little bit like a Buddhist line that caused me trouble at one time in my life, but I really found it. There's something to it. Adversity is the teacher of the true way. Is a kind of a Buddhist line, and then it also shows up in the philosophical writings of an important thinker for me, a guy named Charles Sanders Peirce, who came up with semiotics and pragmatics, an important early American philosopher. And he said, if you didn't get any pushback from the world, you wouldn't know you exist. So all of those are kind of related. That is friction. Only by friction do you know who you are. And I think that's something we've seen in this country played out and helps me deal with a big conundrum, which is the United States is in a way, I, I, I look kind of Jewy. Thank you, Captain Obvious. Have you look at this? Check this nose out. You see that nose? Pretty Jewish, eh? Yeah, no, I never get mistaken for anything else. Though I do play a damn good Jesus. There was a Halloween party once where I dressed up as Jesus with the cross, and man, did I pull it off! I had long hair and everything. I was skinny. I was going through the heartbreak diet, the loss of this wife from Birmingham, Alabama. Anyway, thank you for noticing that I look Jewish. It's a little obvious. If you want to draw any implications from that, feel free to. I'd be curious to what it implies about me for you. Let's see, where were we? So this kind of so here's a challenge I deal with, at least in my gullible belief in the American dream and the attempt to make the world safe for democracy, or at least inoculate the United States against the threat of despotism. We failed. I grew up thinking we were winning at that, but it doesn't look good these days. And so this is the boldest experiment perhaps in world history at the Enlightenment ideals, or you could say you could Democratic Republic. I don't want to get lost in that detail. It was never going to be a democracy. I encourage you to see the Ken Burns series on the American Revolution that just came out. But anyway, why did we fall so hard? I think it gets back to Caveman Rob's point. I mean, in a way, it really bodes horribly for humankind overall. That you did all we had this cushy planet, cushy country, no immediate enemies on any sides the way you would have if you were tucked into a corner of Europe. Um, this windfall of resources, public education, all of this, the freedom of religion, freedom of association, freedom of speech, all of that stuff. And sure enough, we fall for not only a tyrant, a despot, but an amateur, a shitty one. That doesn't bode well for humankind. But if you were to handicap it at all, you might say, speaking to Caveman Rob's point, that it got too cushy here. We started to think, foolishly, that crime doesn't pay. We started to think that the arc of the universe bends towards justice. We started to think that people could behave themselves because it was the right or virtuous thing to do. Oh, I don't know what that is. Sorry, someone else will have to fix that up. So anyway, let's see. We establish that Paula cleans the erasers this week? We did. We're halfway through the syllabus, Jeff. Right, the criminals are currently running the jailhouse, but my point is actually something more specific than that. And in general, what I'm trying to do, I don't have to be innovative in my ideas. What do I want to say about this? I'm not trying to shock, but at the same time, I don't want to keep saying what everybody has said. I am still looking to think it up and out. So yes, the criminals are currently running the jailhouse, but I'm also trying to keep up. And why would that happen is one of the things on my mind. And here I come back, Caveman Rob, to your point from earlier. And by the way, Rob, you have a much better bead on what's going on that made the criminals currently run the jailhouse because you live in Georgia. Now, I know Georgia is actually a more purple state than we might think out here. But at the same time, you've got reference points I don't have because I live in Berkeley, California. I try my best to stay engaged in that world. I need to go on a road trip and just start showing up in diners and offering to have conversations and pay for them. But no, you've got a head start on that. So I ask you, because this is really about your ideas. I want your ideas more than mine here. I play with mine all the time. Why, from what you know about people in Georgia, did we end up with a society that was all full of this talk about freedom and justice and the melting pot and all that, and now we've got the really amateur, shabby, tacky criminals running the jailhouse? I've given a couple of reasons. You gave one earlier here that the thing about it's basically a kind of complacence. Let me draw it to a broader issue about rewards and punishments and how they work. So rewards and punishments can both, carrots and sticks, can motivate or demotivate. Both of them can motivate or demotivate. I try to keep this in mind. Let's start with carrots. Suppose I'm a teacher and I got a bunch of students who, on the first day of class, I say to them, well, look, I don't want you guys to feel the pressure of grades. And this pertains very much to Jeff Cheney, who's obviously grade obsessed. I'm giving you all straight A's. I'm giving you on the first day of class. It's just a reward. Wow. Okay, that's fabulous. No, I'm going to say it again. I really want this conversation to be live, and this is where it would be. And not this weekend, but next weekend at 11 o'clock, we're meeting here at that address. If you are willing, put that on your calendar. We would meet at 11 o'clock California time. That would be 12, 1, 2, 2 o'clock, I think, in Georgia. You guys are on East Coast time, I think. I don't know. Anyway, if you could put it down, I would be grateful for a conversation with you as a celebrity from my perspective, someone who lives in MTG's district. Okay. Yeah, 2 Eastern Standard Time. Yeah, come and help me understand, because I'm just trying to understand. Oh, Jeff, you and your attendance issues. So here's what I was saying. If I said to my class of students on the first day of class, you're all going to get A's, chill out, don't worry about it, it would motivate them in a way, because they would say, well, I don't have to worry about grades. I can really pay attention to the content. Um, to the content. On the other hand, as you can see, it would also make the students complacent. It would be a class, a Mickey Mouse class. And so that's a problem. Rewards can motivate us, or they can make us complacent. It's called the Pygmalion effect. No, half of this is called the Pygmalion effect in psychology. If I treat you like you're smart, you'll act smart. That's half true. If I treat you like you're smart, it's just as likely that you'll act dumb and think you're smart. It's like the Dunning-Kruger is the other half of it. What was or is your current favorite strain? I'll get back to that. I'm all over the map. I do, and actually, I don't smoke it. I do edibles, and it's mostly at night. Though this week, I had some kind of flu bug, and I did some indica last night, but earlier than usually, like 4 o'clock in the afternoon. I was thinking maybe my old stigma about not doing it in the day doesn't matter anymore, because I actually think the same when I'm on it and off it. I'm totally in it. But I don't know strains other than by feel. I'm not a connoisseur of taste. Not interested in that for whatever reason. I have no use for wine or any of that stuff. I'm a meta snob. I'm a snob about what to be a snob about, and wine doesn't cut it for me. It's not interesting enough. I live in Berkeley, where there's a whole lot of foodies. When I was hanging out with that Nobel Prize winner in literature, she was all about the wine, and no, I just ordered the cheapest stuff on the menu, so I could keep up with her. Anyway, so I just described rewards as both motivating and demotivating. Now let's talk about punishment. So if I punish you for if I'm too blunt with you or something like that, it can really demotivate you. Like if you came into class and say, I'm only giving 1 A out of this entire class. Or if I said I'm giving no A's, that could demotivate you. Or if I just chewed you out in front of other people, that could be very demotivating. But it also is, and so that's what we call the backfire effect in psychology. It's funny, we have names for these different things, but I haven't seen anybody else place them together as a tough judgment call. Punishment never motivated you. I doubt that. Caveman Rob, I want to suggest that I agree with you wholeheartedly. And let's see if we can play that out. So I understand your argument that it never motivated you, and I understand your argument that it fosters resentment. Now I'm going to give you a counter example of it. You've probably heard of Charlie Parker, the jazz saxophonist, alto sax player, who basically invented bebop. Hey, nice to see you, Azrael. Okay, so you've heard of Charlie Parker. Well, the story about how he became the master he was that he was an aspiring jazz musician. There we go. Aspiring jazz musician who wasn't that good yet, and he played a gig and he was given a solo, and the drummer was so disgusted with this solo that he took a cymbal off the stand and threw it down at his feet, so it came crashing down to jar and humiliate Charlie Parker. And Charlie Parker then went into deep woodshedding and came out with bebop. It's a fun story. Okay, so that's not the story then? Okay, it's an apocryphal story. My question then is, so maybe I don't have the story right. Maybe it's just a fabrication, an apocryphal story. I still think it's true. Let me try it this way. when I have been bitch slapped, it has fostered resentment in me, and many's the time I've changed because of it anyway. That is, anytime anybody gives me critical feedback, I have to make this distinction. It tastes bitter to take it in, to swallow their feedback. So I very much recognize the tendency to spit it out and be outraged. And by the way, I should say, I get this all the time from Trumpists. They want me to know that punishment never motivates them. That it's always shame on me for shaming them, because no one should ever shame anybody. And shame will never work on them. Nothing will fucking work on them. That's the whole point. That's the Hall of Mirrors. They're going to get you from that angle, and then they're going to tell you a minute later that you're too nice and too namby-pamby and too politically correct. They don't give a fuck. None of that matters. But what I'm saying is, yeah, I'm glad you get what you said. You see what I mean? I have to learn to ingest bitter feedback, recognizing through confidence that I will later be able to digest it and decide what is nutritious and what is shit in there. And that no matter how quickly I spit out the critical feedback, the bitter feedback to me, some gets in anyway. So I do, whether you seem to, if someone says I'm an exception, rewards only motivate me, or punishment only demotivates me, whatever, you might be an exception. I doubt it. I think we all are dealing with this tough judgment call about which to use when. And it's kind of fundamental to the research, for example, we're doing in the conversation tomorrow morning. This is the Sunday morning, 9 o'clock my time, same Google Meet address. This is people who are getting together. We've been getting together for quite a while. It's live. We're interacting with each other. It's not just and we're trying to deal with the question: how do you engage with people there's no talking to? The people who will make you wrong no matter how you challenge them. So if I don't recognize that carrots and sticks can work and fail, I am not going to do a good job of being strategic. I might operate on some false assumption that carrots never work or that sticks never work, or no, they all never work with an asshole, but we still got to figure out how to deal with them. Okay, let's see what we've got here. I think I was thinking of when I was young and stupid, consequences be damned, I'd do whatever. Good. Thank you. And yes, I am a ruminator, though we should be clear on this. Hey, hello, Donna. Nice to meet you. I'm a ruminator, but there is a distinction. So rumination, yes, you come to think of it, I'm just making the connection that perhaps you were making. I'm a ruminant. That is, some gets in and I digest it later. Thank you. I think that's what you were getting at, right? I didn't get that at first. There are two versions of rumination, and I think it's worth distinguishing them. And it occurs to me maybe there's a way to think about the before and after version. So one version of, you know what? When I taught, exactly. To ruminate is bovine. So when I taught, they called me the Shermanator. And you should look up the Shermanator, because he, yes, no, it was perfectly wonderful that they called me that. I want my credibility to come from my ruminations. I don't need it to come from whether I look like the Shermanator. And actually, I know I'm getting through when people will tease me back. That's when I know that I'm actually connecting with someone. That means I feel like that's best permission for me to do, to tease them, and then we can get into the intimacy of laughing at and with each other in the human predicament. So what I wanted to say was, let's see, there was something about the rumination. My first 45 years were that kind of tortured rumination that people don't they associate it with thinking and they don't want to think. This is where the anti-intellectual or even the mindfulness or the be here now people uh, go. It's like aspiring to be either a robot or a cow. Um, to not trouble yourself with ideas. And I get it because, like I say, for the first 5 years, I was uncommonly anxious. I was fretting all the time. And I look back at that as very productive time for me. It's almost like I'm just making another association. And by the way, I want to play with your ideas. Um, uh, so it is a fruitful exercise in futility for my grandchildren to fight and bicker like they do. It is very fruitful for them to have such fruitless or futile battles, because what happens over time is you figure out better ways to fight, better ways to negotiate, that sort of thing, which includes plenty of fighting, plenty of sticks as well as carrots. I think that that's good practice time. And I think that my first 45 years were good practice time because I was very inefficient in my thinking and terrified of having my mind free to think. And then at some point, I went from that kind of rumination, where I would worry a situation to death, to the kind of negotiations or debate I have with myself all the time. And I'm still very interested in how to achieve that state. First of all, I want to remind you, you don't have to believe I've achieved that state. There's nothing more dubious than self-reported declarations of what we are. Don't ever, you never have to take my word for anything. If I say that my thinking is more expansive and not neurotic, you are free to form your own conclusion about that. I am not. If I'm wrong about myself, I'd be the last to know it. Okay, so there's that. But I also think it's a healthy place to get to if we can get there, and I am interested in how to get there. And I wonder if there's any way to do it less neurotically than I have. And in a way, that's what this conversation is about. I see some people who are interested in how to play with their minds more. The kind of thing that turned into the title for my first book, which was Negotiate with Yourself and Win. That's trying to be kind of ironic and paradoxical. So, okay. So yes, there were two kinds of rumination. You can't get through to people if you don't want to be gotten through to. I find waiting until the consequences and then say, look at that. Then they get it. Uh, okay. All right. So Donna, I'm going to take this idea you got there at the beginning, and I also want to play the same game with it that I played with Shirley's comment earlier. I'm not sure if you were in on the conversation then. I'll mention it again. It's what I call the aspirational tense. It's where I declare as true what I hope is true. An example would be crime doesn't pay. An example would be me saying, I quit smoking 5 minutes after tossing out a pack of cigarettes. Okay, you can't get through to people if they don't want to be gotten through to. Let me just think about that. I think, yeah. So here's where the pairing of that and the second thing you said is what I want to get to. I find waiting until after the consequences and then saying, look at that. Then they get it. Okay. All right. Here's my challenge for that. And this relates to the conversation we have tomorrow morning, the 9 o'clock conversation tomorrow, 9 o'clock California time, at this address. I'd welcome, Donna, I would love to have you join us for this. But let me tell you why it's related. Um, uh, okay, so it's, oh, okay, good. So I want to talk about this thing. So uh, let me apply your rule. So when I hear something pat, like a rule of thumb, this will work, I have to look for exceptions. I can agree that you can't get through, that there's just no talking to the Trumpists, for example. From my perspective, there's no, and not just exclusively them. I mean, I have liberal and Buddhist friends and atheist friends there's no talking to either. It's a human thing. It's not about what they believe, but they are a great example of this these days. They make sure that nothing you say works. You find waiting until the consequence and then saying, look at that. Then they get it. All of that sounds like a kind of self-romancing, heroic move, like, see, I told you, and then they get it, and I'm the wise teacher of this sort of stuff. That stuff always worries me when it comes out of my mouth. I don't want to do that stuff. It's fine. But here's the other thing. I can't wait. I'm stuck living in society. Can you imagine? Let's just try this out as an application of this. Suppose I were a Jew, on the outside chance that could ever be. It's just a thought experiment. It's just a, it's a what if. What if I was a Jew, but what if I was living in Germany during the end of the Weimar Republic, the rise of Hitlerism? Apply your rule there. I'm not satisfied with it. It doesn't work. I'll wait until after 6 million of us are dead, including me, and then the Germans see that this was a bad decision, and I could say to them, see, I told you, too fucking late. So that's why we have the conversation we have tomorrow morning. Yes, letting them fuck around and find out is one of the strategies, but I do not, the whole watchword of tomorrow morning's conversation, which we've been having for over a year now, is repertoire, not recipe. So this idea that you should let them just fuck around and find out, it belongs in your repertoire. It is not the recipe. Nothing is the recipe with them. That's the point. And in a way, that's your point, Donna, when you say you can't get through to people who don't want to be gotten through to. And the burden I go to after that, the burden I pose on myself is, yeah, and you still have to get through to them. A standard version of this is never fight with a pig. You'll just get dirty and the pig likes it. Yeah, and I got to say never, because, yeah, you have to fight pigs. I mean, just think about how easy it is to find an exception to that. If a despot is killing your family, if a pig potentate, a pig president is killing your family or threatening to, and you say, no, I won't fight with them because I'll just get dirty and the pig will like it. You can't do that. So I got to say never. There are times to not fight with a pig. There are plenty of pigs I don't fight with, but because I had to pick my battles. But I just want to, so this is what I'm doing, Donna, for what it's worth. It's just the kind of rumination I do. Don't have to buy any of it. But what I'm doing here is taking an idea, stripping away its authorship, stripping away its rhetoric too, the rhetoric that makes it sound final or rich, and then trying to look at the idea and trying to not land. This is the problem with me. This is why I have a limited audience. Because I think in general what we want is to land. And that would be true of all of us, but so that's why I'm interested in how you'd escape that need to land firmly. Because what I'm actually arguing is if you land firmly on something like that, which I would call a half-truth, like, just let them fuck around and find out, it's half true. But if you land on that, you won't live by it. You'll just espouse it. It's basically an invitation to hypocrisy. If I said hate never solved anything or love is the answer, there's no way I could possibly live off of that. Or kindness to everyone? No. You couldn't possibly do it. You won't do it. You shouldn't do it. So what are you doing? You're basically buying a recipe. You're buying a path to hypocrisy, to espouse that stuff. Now, what I will do with them is if I hear a path thing like always be kind to them, always let them fuck around and find out, always be aggressive. I hear any of those things, I'll say basically all truisms are half-truths. And if you want to get at the other half, ask yourself why, if it's so damn true, do people have to keep on saying it? I mean, why do people have to keep on saying it's always darkest before the dawn? Because obviously it's not always darkest before the dawn. I mean, it is when they're talking about something as reliable as planetary motion. But no, it's also darkest before death. So that's why you need all the encouragement of saying that. So, okay. So I'm in the pig pen right now. I don't know what... Oh, I'm not sure how to take that, Donna. Are you fighting with a pig? Dear Donna, I'm playing with ideas here. It's completely safe. Um, uh, let's see. And feel free to say, Jeremy, you ignorant slut. Aspire to put your best foot forward, knowing all along your shoes untied, and there's a wad of gum on your soul. There's good. Um, and think I'm a heretic. Okay, I don't know where you are, Donna, but feel free to join us tomorrow or the next session. I will remind you, this is the advertisement that I offer up. Dog shit on my shoe. These are details I don't know what to do with, but thank you for them. So here's there are two offerings here. One, and both of them, just email me if you want to be on the mailing list for them. Here we are, jershare6@gmail. This is a chance for you uh, to have for us to have a real conversation, sitting around jamming together tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock. So you just email me and say I want to be on the list for either of these, and we'll see what happens to it. But it's and come to think of it, I don't know. I might combine the list so it'd be easier. Okay, all right. Um, nice to hear from you, Donna. Uh, yeah, Louisiana is something else. Um, uh, Fascinating place. I've been there very little. I've played in bands populated almost exclusively by people from Louisiana. But and I boy do I respect that music, and I respect the culture, and I swoon over Louis Armstrong from there and all that. Uh, but also what a place! I was there. Sorry, this was perhaps a related story. I was there for a psych conference one year, and it was a couple of weeks before. It was a week before Mardi Gras, but there was a Mardi Gras parade going on in a rural town outside of New Orleans. So I went to it, and I noticed it was totally segregated, with the exception of a few teenagers who were hanging out together. And I noticed the police hassling. So there was a black guy with a white girlfriend. And just as I was leaving town, I saw one of these young couples, and I came up to them and said, I'm from out of town. Can you tell me what it's like around integration at this point? I mean, what's it like living in this town? White girlfriend, black boyfriend. And they said, it's getting better. The police will still give you a really hard time, but mostly it's getting better. And I walked away feeling like encouraged a little bit, and also that I'd have this connection with people who were similar to me in their liberal sentiments out there in rural Louisiana. And then the girl calls over to me and says, "You say you're from San Francisco?" I said, "Yeah." She said, "Are you gay?" And I said, "No." She said, "Are they letting gays marry out there?" I said, "Yeah." And she said, "I think that's disgusting." So I was just fascinated by that, because it's like they could apply the desegregation thing or the tolerance thing to themselves, but they couldn't extrapolate all the way out. And I can kind of see why people would be like that. That is, once you give your freedom to other people, then you got all these complications. Anyway, so there's all of that. Let's see. I just finished Frenchie. All right. Let's see. Where are we? Enough of your small talk here. I want to hear some substantive ideas we can play with here. Aspire to put your best foot forward, knowing all along your shoes untied, and there's a wad of gum on your soul. Um, Actually, I want to play with that, because actually this last couple weeks I've really been interested in this. It's the chicken and egg relationship between competence and confidence. And it really explains a lot of humankind, because there's a way out of this chicken and egg problem. So I wrote it up. It's already out as a video, but it's basically I, I need confidence. And the way to get confidence would be to get good at something, to get competent at something. And if I was competent at something, I would be confident. The problem is that I don't dare risk getting competent at something because I don't have the confidence to try to get good at something, because what if I wasn't good at it and then I'd lose even more confidence? It's like a double or nothing deal to try to get competent. So I'm in a bind. I need my confidence. The way to get confidence is to get competent, that is, to get good at something. But to get good at something, I need confidence. And notice what the church and what Trump have offered. It's unconditional confidence. You can be confident no matter what. This is really a central theme in my thinking about it lately. That for a Trump supporter, every time he fucks up and declares victory, that's impressive. To see a competent person act competent, no, to see a competent person, someone who can do shit, look confident, is both unimpressive and irrelevant. These are not people who feel very competent. And they're going to feel more and more incompetent as AI takes over. So that's not impressive. But what is impressive is to see Trump as Evel Knievel, who is soaring, victorious, unperturbed, no consequences, over sinkholes of his own making. That's impressive. I think that's where we see the Trumpists most titillated. They see themselves most titillated. We see them most titillated when Trump finesses something that is total shit. And we're seeing more and more of him leaning into that. I think it is a kind of, these are called costly signals in biology. Peacock feathers are maladaptive. If you're, yeah, they're great for scoring with the chicks, with the females, but they are going to slow you down when there's a predator around. So what's the point of them? And my sense of jump the shark is interesting. Come to think of it, jump the shark. So yeah, you've given me 2 new ideas, Donna. Thank you. And so no, I won't smoke more weed than I already do, because apparently I'm getting stoned off your ideas. Jump the shark. Obviously, I remember that from Happy Days and what it turned into. But in this case, it's actually jumping the shark. That's fabulous. Thank you for Donna. Thank you for that. That's really brilliant, because that will soon be a minor motion picture. But anyway, yeah, that would be resonant for people. The idea that you can do no wrong, and I swear that's what the religions have offered too. Think about the word absolution. First of all, I'll give you the etymology of it. Absolute means dissolved away. That's what it originally meant. Ab is to the side of, and solute is dissolve. So dissolved away from what? We're back to Shirley Crane's point early on, from consequences. So to be an absolutist is to be absolved, is to feel like you can do no wrong. So, I mean, I just going to say that if this is, from my perspective, it's a simple and obvious outcome of having language. It's what words do to critters, is having that capacity to talk our way out of thinking that we have to deal with consequences. Frogs jump out of boiling water. Humans don't, because we can rationalize it. So I'm going to actually, I got to read you one last thing here. This will sound a little, well, let me just grab this. It's very much on my mind these days. I'm calling it, this is just my notes, but I think it's useful. So try to apply this and just think about humans in general, and I would argue any language-using organism in the universe, whether it's carbon-based or not. Once they are into what we call symbols in semiotics, you would have this problem. So I call these somewhere, everywhere, nowhere, non-relative resources. I'm going to give you a little bit of a, so here's a quote from a religious person. Jesus's love, being infinite, even though it is divided up for every person on earth, is still infinitely poured out on each one of us. So, and then another quote. I wish all the ice cream for everyone, everywhere, always. A toddler. Okay? Having language enables us to claim abstract immaterial substances, resources that are inexplicably infinite and yet material, no work or constraint involved in their existence, and mercurially somewhere, everywhere, and nowhere. Imagining these abstract supernatural resources, we can cook the books in our favor and compete aggressively while denying that we're competing at all. Some of these abstract symbolic resources or currencies are religious or spiritual. For example, God's love or spirit. So you'll see where I'm going with this. Spirit is everywhere. God's love is everywhere. Vital force, salvation, heaven, afterlives, cosmic consciousness. Some are practical everyday currencies like love, kindness, willpower, or freedom. And some are actually scientific, information, selfhood, effort, purpose. Okay, here's a practical, intuitive example of how these abstract currencies are wielded. And this went out this morning as a short video. Where is the love? I'm not getting enough, and I should be getting all I want because love is everywhere. Love is in all matter. It's not magic. It's nothing but matter. Love is nowhere, and yet it's everywhere and also only somewhere, and I should be getting more because it's everywhere. Love is free. What does it cost you to give me more love? See, love isn't relative. It's not like the more I love some things, the less I love other things. Love isn't like time, money, or energy. It's infinite. I may not have time, money, and energy to do everything, but I can love everything equally and still love some things more without less for other things. Love is magic. It's a miracle. It's a substance in infinite supply. It costs nothing to be loving to everyone always and still love some people more than others without ever loving other people less. And so it shouldn't bother you if you don't get enough love from me. You get infinite love from me. Everyone is always loved because love is infinite. Stop trying to keep track. Stop keeping tabs on who and doing love accounting. That's your scarcity mentality. Love isn't like that. It's always somewhere, everywhere, and nowhere. It's like God's love. It's infinite. It's like Santa granting all wishes to all children everywhere all at once on Christmas. I'm a bringer of the gospel, the good news about love, which means I deserve more love. And people can't expect more love from me because I'm busy spreading the love to everyone. Do you hear how weird we can be with the concept of love? And I'm saying we can do that with any of these terms. And that's the way in which we can avoid consequences. We can simply cook the books. At least that's my sense of it. Okay, now there were many comments here beyond Jump the Shark. Are we still in the atomic time warp? I don't know what that means. But Donna's smoking for me, so maybe she can tell me what it means. One of the Trumpists I know is not even a voter. He just sees an asshole being an asshole and gets off on it. Yes, I've decided recently that I need to rewatch The Joker, the movie The Joker, because I think there are probably some parallels to be found in that. Let's see. Where's My Pony, I think probably has to do with the joke about the pile of shit. Is that right, Michael? Did I read that right? Got it. I think about how it is to think without words. Good. I don't think so. I think about that too a lot, Donna. It's and so first of all, it's very hard to imagine it. There are people who aspire to it. There are Taoists and Buddhists who aspire to it. I don't think they're on the right path. There are also psychonauts who talk like they've somehow transcended themselves and transcended their minds. Even Michael Pollan, who wrote that book called How to Change Your Mind, got lost in that nonsense for a while. The idea that you could transcend and get back to what we call beginner's mind. I don't believe we can. I was born parasitic on culture and language, and all of my thinking is intermediated by that medium. Language is not just for communication, it's also how I think. So what would it be like to think without that stuff? Well, it'd be feeling, it'd be having emotion. So you can think about a dog, it does not have language. It has what we call icons and indexes. A word can trigger a word can be a signal the way that a bell could be a signal for Pavlov's dog. I don't think a dog understands what the word means or could combine words into concepts, but they definitely have iconicity and indexicality. Iconicity is the same word heard over and over, like the same bell heard over and over, indicating the same consequence. That would be an indexical relationship. That is something related in time and space. So if the dog hears bell and then gets a taco and then bell and then taco, bell and taco, sooner or later it's putting the two and two bells together, the two and two tacos together and putting them together, and there's a kind of a relationship, an association. That is not what's going on. Language goes beyond that. And really, we're the only organisms who are tripping balls on language. And I do think of it as tripping balls. I actually think of us as like having dropped acid. If you scrunch the universe's history down to 1 year, humans are this tiny little fraction at the end of New Year's Eve. And it's like the way I think of us is like we all dropped acid by gaining language. And this is kind of the morning after, and we're all tripping balls. That's how I think of us. That's what I think this is. Having a good time. I love it. I wouldn't want to be without language. It's my favorite thinker toy, but it is. I think it's very likely to doom us for the reasons I was talking about before. One way that it's put that I like a lot is that the instinct to survive is strong, but the instinct to alleviate fear is stronger. And with language, we can alleviate fear in a way that a dog can't. Do dogs think? It really depends on how you define think. One definition of think is to imagine what is not immediately present. So, for example, icons and indexes, the stuff I was just talking about, that's all based on stuff that is grounded in the real world. And we get language by doing that, by saying words over and over to a kid and pointing at something nearby. But once you have language, you can actually achieve liftoff. So I could say doggy, doggy, doggy to my grandchild, pointing at dogs, and sooner or later they'll have the word. And then we can talk about dogs even when there's no dogs around. So if that's the definition of thinking, which is imagining what's not immediately present in time and space, they can have what's called episodic memory. They can have the dreams where they're kind of still running and all of that, but it's not the same as what we humans can do with language. Here's one way that it's distinguished. There's know how, and there's also know that. So know how would be like riding a bike or anything you've done repetitively over and over. So maybe when a dog is lying there and dreaming of running, it's simply that kind of know-how. I would guess that's mostly what it is. It's not a specific incident. Know that is something that's different. So for example, let me ask you this. What did you have for breakfast on Thanksgiving morning this last week? Or let me try this. What did you have for Thanksgiving morning 10 years ago on Thanksgiving? Well, with words, you can actually work your way back to it. It's not like you repeated over and over what you had for it. So it's not going to be know-how, but it's know that you can get to by stringing together a bunch of associations. Okay, so I was in Tucson that year, and I was visiting my brother, and I was staying in my brother's house. And you start to do that, and you can go back to things that are in your past and work them out in a way that a dog can't do it. Why is that? This is the amazing thing about it. Because language became a know-how. I've just talked for an hour and 15 minutes. I have not thought about about the words I'm using. It's all know-how. I have an impulse to say something. The words come out. They comb me into where I'm going. I have an 87-year-old friend I visited on Thursday who's losing that capacity. He can start into a sentence and there's a word missing and he can't even circumnavigate around it. He's a little disappointed, as will I be when I lose the gift of gab. Good Lord, do I love talking. I mean, just look at me. Or don't, just listen to me. But anyway, so because I have this fluency with words, I can imagine anything past, present, and future. And it's know that. It's not know-how. I also have know-how. So the relationship between them is fascinating. The way I think of it is, what are you going to carry around with you? You're going to carry around two things. One things that have gotten lightweight, things that are lightweight. You can carry them around, or things that have easy handles. Okay, so I I learned to I learned to drive, and through repetition, you minimize the amount of excess or inefficient effort to where it becomes very efficient. The same thing in sports, same thing in music. Um, any activity, gymnastics, any of that, you get to the point where you make it look easy because you've reduced the amount of inefficient behavior. That's like carrying around something lightweight. That's know how. Okay, and then the know that, what is that? That's stuff with handles. So I can handle my way back to what I had for Thanksgiving 10 years ago because this word's associated with that and it brings back this memory, which brings back this memory. That's know that. And yet it's intermediated by language, which is know how for us. So it's fascinating what a difference it makes for us to have language. And all of this does relate to something that, let's see, I think it was Donna saying, smoke more weed. No, jump the shark. No, it was something about, yes. Anyway, all right. We're winding down here. Let's see. Yes, dog things. They are good. Okay, Donna. So they are good problem solvers up to a point. Let me try one more on you. First of all, I don't want to take anything away from dogs, and I certainly don't want to glorify humans. That's not the point. I'm actually saying that we're very likely to fuck things up. If the world were populated by animals and not us, they have more legs than I think humans do. I think language is going to screw us up in the long run. I think that's my biggest concern. Actually, it has to do with what Shirley said early on. When the going gets tough, people freak out. They start to buy lofty bullshit that justifies them grabbing what they want. They dissociate. And the more they dissociate, the world gets more fucked up, and then we end up dead. That's what I'm saying. No, not quite talking. I mean, Donna, this is a debatable point, and I want to also flag that it's amazing how many controversial things I say that people are fine with. But this one about animals and language, it's a mystery to me how many people say, oh, you don't know that. You don't know that for sure. Let me just grant, I don't know it for sure. But I do know that in evolution, where I'm very confident that in evolution, it's use it or lose it. And so if I see a dog solving problems, and yet not the kinds of problems that would require language, then I don't need to assume they have language. And I would certainly say that about potato bugs or spiders. I can make two opposite mistakes. One is I can anthropomorphize them and say they're just like us. You know, dogs think, dogs talk, dogs have conversations in language, that sort of thing. I can round out that way, or I can do the other thing, which is often treated as arrogant, which is to say, no, humans are radically different. Obviously, we have a lot in common with animals, more than we'd like to admit. Obviously, we're different. So if we're going to do something other than this kind of impressionistic stuff where we say, well, crows are clever, or dogs can think, or octopus have language, we have to have a standard by which to decide whether it's true. Yeah, you know that dogs can think, and I agree, dogs can think. But I think this all started with you asking, what's it like to think without words? And so let me try this out. I want you to imagine something, Donna, and everybody else, and I want you to see how easy it is for you to imagine this. So this is a rhinoceros. It's a bright green rhinoceros in a pink tutu, and it has a candy corn nose, and it is spinning the entire universe on its candy corn nose. That's not hard for you to imagine, right? I mean, effortless. That and myriad other things. I don't think you could get your dog to imagine that. I don't think so. I mean, you could show them pictures of it. They wouldn't know what it was. Uh, no, you can imagine here. Just try this. One of the members of the Harlem Globetrotters spinning the universe on their. So what I'm trying to say is that humans are capable of imagining all sorts of unreal things, and that is both what makes us such an incredibly anxious species, and also what makes us such a delusional and magical thinking species. Is that we can imagine unreal things that terrify us, and then we can imagine unreal things that calm us down. And that's what I'm trying to get at. And I don't want to get lost in this thing of, oh, you're saying you're better than animals, or you're saying you're just like animals. It's irrelevant. I want to know what's the difference between us and dogs. I think you'll grant that there is a difference. And one of the things you might say is, well, we have prehensile, we have prehensile thumbs, and or opposable thumbs, and we have technology and all of that stuff. I am arguing also that we couldn't even begin to use that stuff if we didn't have language. Language, or symbols in general, is what we're called. Symbols are, well, let me just be clear on what this is. The distinction I made. Okay, so Pavlov hears the bell, and the Pavlov's dog, and salivates. So he can make that kind of indexical association. But this is different. What I got in language is I was born into a culture that has collected up a bunch of different bells, different words, that I have to learn from my culture. They are local. And I have to make the associations, and then I get to combine them like I just did with the rhinoceros. And then I can mix and match them. And I can do that achieving liftoff from the physical world. So let me give you an example of how that would work. If I said to you the word hard right now, it'd mean nothing, but just said hard. If I said hard while pointing to my cell phone, you would know that I am referencing a quality of an object. My cell phone is hard. But I did that not with words. I did that with an indexical finger pointing, just like a kid does. Doggy. That's right. I mean, their fingers are very active. At some point with language, you achieve liftoff from the finger. You don't need the finger there anymore because you can actually do that indexical stuff with words. If for example, if I said, this is hard in context, or if I said, my phone is hard, and I said it when my phone was actually lost 3 miles from here, you'd know what I was talking about. That's what happens with language. We are able to achieve liftoff in a way that I will argue dogs don't. And it's totally fine with me if you disagree with that. Okay, so it's becoming Leap the Jeremy. This I don't know. I don't know. I mean, I'm sure it is. By the way, I will have jumped the shark any minute now. Abstraction is what we're talking about. Abstraction is also it's removed from, it's away from, pulled away from. And so the question for me, this is the weird thing about my life. I am deep into abstraction, but what oh, there we go. I'm into concrete abstractions. I have to be able to explain how abstractions emerge within nothing but physics. So you a minute ago, I mentioned that information is as abstracted away from reality as spirit is. Your willpower is in psychology, in the social sciences, in the life sciences. The idea of a motivation. What do we know about a motivation? Well, we know it happens in your body. We basically can say you're motivated if we see you behave a certain way. Like if you reach for some corn chips, we'd say you have a motivation to eat corn chips. Okay. We know what happens in your body. We know it's instantiated or embodied in physics and chemistry, and yet we know it's not just physics and chemistry. That is, a hormone doesn't have a motivation. It might be part of a process that has a motivation. So what the fuck is a motivation? I will say that from my perspective, the way the scientists use it is just a fancier sounding, it's more sciencey sounding name for something that's not much better than spirit. To name it, naming is not explaining. So in my work, I have to be able to take abstractions like information or motivation, And I have to explain how they emerge within nothing but physical chemistry. They are not physical chemistry, and yet they are a new property that is a result of physical chemistry. I cannot use any abstractions to explain them. I have to be able to explain them strictly in terms of what? Well, from my perspective, this has also been up this week, from the second law of thermodynamics, the fact that everything's falling apart, which makes the job very difficult because my main motivation is keeping my shit together, and I'm doing it going uphill against the fundamental, most universal force in nature, which is towards degeneration. I am regenerating myself. I am motivated to regenerate myself. And so I have to be able to explain it from that hard beginning. Notice how this relates to the concept of God. So God is the ultimate motivation. I don't believe in God. I believe that people need to believe in God. I believe that the belief in God has all sorts of consequences. I don't believe that God exists. But if you want to talk about God as the original, the prime motivator, the big mover, he wanted to make things happen, or she wanted to make things happen. There's no different from what I hear from spiritual people who say that there's a higher power, or there's vital force, or there's some kind of a spiritual energy or whatever. They're still talking about something that's motivated. It's got appetites, it's got preferences. Okay, if you strip that off of it, no one's going to have any fun with God. But if I were to have to name God as the original, the foundation from which I have to explain everything, all the way out to Trumpists, it's the second law of thermodynamics, which is actually the first law of everything. It's that order dissolves. God is deadly. God is death in that respect. If you set aside what he's trying to do, I don't think he's trying to do anything. I don't think the universe is trying to do anything. But if you look at what we have to be able to use to explain motivation, I've got to start somewhere. Where do I start? I start with the fact that shit falls apart. There you go. So let's see. A few more things. I've just been revving out. When I did teach psych in schools, kids would come to class stoned. These were daytime classes. And they come to class stoned. And then at one point, someone said, "We assumed that you came to class stoned." Never. I would never do that. I would never come to class stoned. And yet, I've been like this for so long that it'd be easy to mistake me for high on something. All right, let's see. Poverty is an abstraction to a billionaire who was born into it, who was born into money. Yes, the Stalin quote. One death is a tragedy. A thousand deaths is a statistic. Something like that. This is the thing. Okay, so yes, that's right. So Michael, we're onto something that's close to Spinoza, but Spinoza went a step further than that. And became what we call technically an eliminativist, meaning someone who doesn't believe that you need to talk about what Aristotle called final causality. Purpose, telos, it's called, that for which something occurs. So Spinoza said, we've been taught, so this is, I consider it a major overstep in the right direction. Brilliant thinker. I have great respect for him and for all sorts of thinkers back then who many of them take excess steps just the way I might be as well. Okay, well, Spinoza is a great beginning, a great eye-opening this way. But here's what I want to challenge about it. So for years, we had this idea of telos, or purpose, as theological. It was actually God's purpose. And it meant that any purpose here was serving God's purpose. And you hear this all the way back in certainly the religious text, but you even hear it in Aristotle, who's even countering some of the idealism that you get from Plato. But he's saying when a rock falls, it's falling to its proper place, where it belongs, where it should be. So shoulds are part of that family of things that happen on purpose. And Spinoza says at one point, what we're talking about there is backward causality. How can a goal, something in the future, cause something in the present? How could you have that kind of backwards causality? It doesn't make any sense. He said every time you're using a concept like purpose or end-directedness, goal-directedness, you're placing a promissory note. You're saying, I have to explain this somehow, but you never explain it. So let's eliminate it. Let's treat what Aristotle, what we call from Aristotle final cause. Let's call it the lost cause. It's ridiculous. You don't need it anymore. And that's where he became an eliminativist. I'm doing something that would be the next step, which is there is this promissory note. We do have to explain where purpose comes from or how it emerges within nothing but the physical world, which is his God that isn't trying to do anything. Spinoza's God that's not trying to do anything. That's the burden that we put on us in the work I do with Terrence Deacon. And I swear I study around and I don't see other researchers dealing with the question. I think that most scientists and most philosophers sidestep the question, often with these kinds of abstract currencies like information or motivation. I'll end with a short, just a brief anecdote on this subject. I was at a psych conference, the American Psychology Association, and I happened to go to a party that was just a cocktail party off to the side, and ended up in a conversation with a guy who was the chief scientist. He was in charge of science for the American Psychology Association. We got into a great conversation over wine and stuff, and he said that he got into psychology because he wanted to understand the free will determinism debate. He wanted to resolve that debate. And this was obviously years and years ago. He was a senior researcher. That's top of the line. I mean, if you're the top scientist for the American Psychology Association. So I asked him, what did you conclude? There's no free will. We're determinate. That's what he concluded. In the meantime, so that's where Spinoza ends up if you don't watch out. I'll end with two lovely little pieces of poetry on the subject, very short. One is and both of them I disagree with, but I just think they're delightful. One is, there was a young man who said, damn, for it certainly seems that I am a creature that moves in immutable grooves. I'm not even a bus, I'm a tram. And then I'll end with this from Kurt Vonnegut. So that's a determinist argument. What I'm saying is, no, we're not determined, nor do we have free will. What we have is interpretive will, and a lot of that is under the influence of language in us. Okay, so here's the last thing, and this comes from Kurt Vonnegut, Cat's Cradle. We do doodly do what we must, muddly must. Muddly do, until we bust, bodily bust. I'll see you guys next time. Come join us tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock if you want at that link up. That's the conversation about how to engage with people there's no talking to. And then also, please feel free to get in touch with me. I sent the email. My email's everywhere. And say, I want to be on the list, because I want to start to make a list for not this Sunday, but the following Sunday, where we're just going to have a jam session. It's just like this, except you can talk. Which would, think of what fun that would be. I mean, I'm apparently having fun talking, so you can join me. All right. See you guys.